It's the Murali Daily. England all out for 178. India finish on 39 for 1, chasing 420 for the win. It's all kind of poised in the final day. I'm joined by Tommy Stewart, Owen Blackhurst, Matt Owen and Sam Hartford. This podcast is brought to you by Lion Beer and Sam's Chicken. Lads, where do you want to begin? I want to ask you, which side do you think is going to bed the happier tonight?
England. England, definitely.
England, yeah.
I just heard Alistair Cook say England have had 3.5 good days, which is probably about right. But I don't know. I was laughing about, how much we obsess over Pujara and the fact that he looks like a beautiful husky on this podcast. The last thing I saw was he was bloody 11 runs off 22 balls, and Gill's doing the Pujara role, which is quite that for Pujara. That's like he's going to have a nosebleed with those sort of figures. So yeah, I don't know. In answer to your question, I suppose England, but I don't know. That's not very good.
I just think after what happened in Australia with India and Australia, and the way the last few tests ended over there. India are at that point where sometimes some sports teams get to where they just feel like anything can happen, that they've kind of got the zeitgeist and there's a bit of magic in the side. And I know, Matt, me and you were talking about this on Twitter, that 420 is quite, well, it's what, 380 now, 381 they need to get the final day, is quite achievable when you've got, 100 overs to bat through tomorrow. It basically is, you need to put on either two good batsmen, need to go for it, or two good partnerships.
You need two. They're going to need two outstanding innings, and that doesn't happen very often. I mean, we had the West Indies chase down a big score the other day, yesterday, in fact, wasn't it? 390 odd, and that doesn't happen very often. I still think maybe I'm a bit old school, but I think first of all, I don't really agree. Most of the time with not enforcing the follow-on. I think you should put your foot on their throat. I really do. And I don't like this thing about batting second time round. Probably 9 times out of 10, I'd just stick him in again.
I think in India, I've got to disagree with that, and especially with the second test starting 3 days later. I think conditionally, I think in England, I'd probably agree and enforce the follow-on. But I think in this situation, when subcontinent and how hard it is to play them with the lack of gap between tests, I think it's probably the right decision. But let's face it, if you just sat down Joe Root and Silverwood at the beginning of the test, Matt, and said, right, you're going to have a last day to go at India with runs on the board and the chance to take 9 wickets, they'd have ripped their hand off, because everyone was saying they were walking over there and going to get absolutely fucked. So for a start to a series, and there's been a lot of chat about the declaration, and we were chatting before. I think it comes down to two things. I think the analysts will have come up with something, whether we believe it or not, but the players do, or the players have to, that says there's an optimum time to stick a team in at the end of the day. I almost guarantee there's something to do with it. And I think India want to win this test. They have to win this test, because cricket being the most important thing in India, and the pressure they'll be under if they don't win it. So I think they probably think Kohli will tell his players to have a go at it tomorrow. I can't see India trying to bat out the day as a draw. I think they've got to win it. So maybe giving them less time is a little bit of reverse psychology, and they hope they'll play some false shots going after it.
Yeah, there's so much bullish talk about India chasing this down. I think that's warranted given what they've just done out in Australia. Yeah. But if you look at it objectively, England are still in an extremely healthy position. They'll take a lot of encouragement out of what I've termed the peach from Leach, which was that absolute beauty to turn in the pitch there. So I think.
When did you come up with that?
Literally about 10 seconds ago.
Nice. Good. Yeah, that's the sort of minds we've got on the Murali.
Yeah, there's nothing coordinated. So I think objectively England's still in a really healthy position.
I'll tell you who won't be. Sorry, Tom. I'll tell you who probably isn't in a very good mood either. If he's looked at Twitter and seen you having a go at his hair, or also that he's got But he's got a golden duck in a test match is Rory Burns. And with a really shit analogy, if he's starting to look a lot like Jack Sparrow, it can't be soon before he's walking the fucking plank, can it? His average is only going one way.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, it's not good. Come on.
Well, Matt's a comedy writer, so he's a good adjudicator.
It's not in the script, mate. I've got to give you some.
No, the point I was going to make wasn't going to be anything sick, because I realised we were talking too seriously about cricket, and I just wanted to, for the benefit of people who don't follow us on Twitter, I said that seems that Rory Burns is carrying a heavy weight on his shoulders right now. Most of that weight is, of course, made up by the sheer volume of his ridiculous hair. I'm not.
Speaks a bald man.
You are.
Speaks a bald man.
Well,
just jealous.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not going to get into envy so well.
I think my whole like bold announcement and like all that, I think it was a bit. I think I basically panicked a bit when I was pissed and like got my mates to shave it, because I was like, oh, it's thinning a bit. It's not. There's. I've got a good hairline anyway. That's by the way.
Do you want to say Tom's hairline?
Tom? You've not had some plugs.
You are.
You've not had some plugs. You've not been down Vorney's hair shack.
Hashtag on. But me and Johnny, he's not with us today. He's not dead. He's just working. But me and him have always had this thing since, well, not always, since last summer, we've been watching his hair like grow. I say slowly growing, like this rapid growth, because a couple of years ago, even though I'm not a big fan of the Peaky Blinders look, that suited him. I thought he looked quite good in 2019, and he was making runs in 2019.
Correct.
And Johnny always said, he looks like a Grebo, he looks like a Mosher. And no offense to them, I used to be one when I was in school, but you're opening the batting for England. And even though I'm fairly young in comparison to you old bastards, I am a cricket traditionalist. I think if you're opening the batting for England, you shouldn't be looking like a scruff. And he's in shit form. So, I woke up to that this morning. Him getting out. I turned around and Kohli was going fucking mental, and then I just saw him hanging his head, and then it's just.
Do you think he's like a reverse Samson? Like the longer his hair gets, the worse he gets at batting. His powers diminish.
I think that is the theory that I was trying to learn.
Yeah. As a man, sorry, Sam. Go on.
No, go on, Owen.
I was going to say, as a man who's got the same haircut as he did at 16 because of lockdown, I've got a little bit of sympathy for Rory Burns. But opening batsmen shouldn't have long hair. Middle order dashers, all rounders, fast bowlers, long hair.
Exactly.
Spinners and opening batsmen, no long hair. And I can't remember an opening bat. And I don't know about you, Matt, who even in the 80s, even when you had some fantastic Barnets like Robin Smith's, Judge look, and both of them had a bit. Batsman. I don't remember an opening bat or even a top order bat with hair this long in my lifetime.
I go back to the 70s and I'm struggling. I remember Barry Wood had one, but he was awful. But I agree with that totally. And I remember a cricketer called Paul Smith, who was for Warwickshire. He had quite a massive Barnet. That was back in the 80s, but he was an all-rounder. So I suppose you can get away with it if you're an all-rounder.
Yeah, well, that's what someone replied to us, or me, or someone replied saying, "Oh, have you seen the state of Pekowski for Australia?" It's like, yeah, he's number 6. Like, it's fine. He can do whatever the fuck he wants.
It's rock and roll. Middle order's rock and roll. It always is. You always get the, when you play club cricket, you always, the guys who bat 4, 5, 6, that's the best place to play your cricket, isn't it? Because they usually bowl as well. They're horrible, aren't they? Yeah, they're very good at all sports. They can all fuck off, to be quite honest.
Talking about rock and roll, Ishant looks very rock and roll, doesn't he? And fair play to him for joining the 300 club today. But it was on. I had a bit of a look, and I saw on Twitter that it was he got his 300 today, and 27 years ago to the day was Kapil Dev broke Richard Hadley's world record for test wickets. He got 433. Now, there's a link here where I went for a run this morning was past Tunbridge Wells Neville Ground, where in 1983, Kapil Dev scored 175 not out in the World Cup, and it was never televised. And 27 years later, where I ended up accidentally threatening the former chairman of Tunbridge Wells Cricket Club with a stump after he repeatedly called me a cheat in an under-14s match.
You accidentally attacked him.
I picked up the stumps after and was carrying them back across.
Yeah.
My missus said, he called you a cheat. And I said, he did what? It's an under-14s game. I called 3 wides, which lost us the game. And it was the league decider for our village team against Tunbridge Wells. So I had him sort of like this and said, what did you call me, mate? And it sort of looked and got round that I'd threatened him with a stump. I didn't actually point the stump.
No.
For the benefit of the listener, for the benefit of the listener, if you've seen A Knight's Tale, like that's what he's sort of like jousting with those stumps there.
Or you could watch it on YouTube.
Sam's been trying to say something for ages. Sorry.
No, just on the point of bad looks, I think we can tolerate anything as long as you're playing well, right? I mean, in the summer we had Stuart Broad looking like the middle class last samurai, but it didn't matter because he was taking fifers left, right, and centre. So Burns needs to go up his runs, and maybe we can tolerate that bit at the back a bit more. But otherwise, get it on.
Yeah, Ben Stokes looks ridiculous at the moment with his Alice band and his hair. Ridiculous. And if it wasn't Ben Stokes, and he wouldn't kick your fucking head in if you mentioned him.
And he wasn't the best cricketer in the world. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think in the interest of balance, the Murali end is a purveyor of good journalism. I think it's only right we get the former chair of Tunbridge Wells Cricket Club on.
Oh, fucking yes, please.
I'd be fine. I'd be happy to do it again.
Talking about like village cricket sort of. This is a really good one. I'll try and tell it really quickly. So my team, Stretford Singers, were an last man stands team, which is like T20 8-a-side cricket. It's daft. It's like weeknights, a bit of fun. Basically, if you're too hungover at the weekend, it's the alternative. Because you get to do it weeknights, like 5-a-side sort of thing. But last summer we had a game where we were 2 players short. So the opposing team had to give us 2 players basically for the fielding. And one of our players who got injured was Jordan, who's a member of the roster on this podcast. He broke his finger. He's our wicketkeeper. Broke his finger. They got their wicketkeeper to step in. Just this lad in. Like we're one of the few white teams out of a league that's mainly made up of Pakistani and Indian lads. So they got this lad, and he's wearing glasses, like he's a bit heavy set and stuff. We're like, oh bloody hell, I fucked it. Anyway, he has a fucking worldie of a game, takes 3 catches and wicket. His fucking teammates are going mental. The fielder we just put at like 3rd man, try and keep him away. And anyway, his teammates are just like behind him, and he's just like he's when Dennis Law scores against United, he's just like sorry lads. And anyway, we went on to absolutely like batter them, and it was mainly thanks to the wicketkeeper. And then anyway, after the match, the guy Shah, bless him, he runs the league. He's so unorganised. I don't know how he got that job, but God bless him, he's a good guy. They're all after the match, we're all celebrating and stuff off to the pub on Thursday night, whatever. And we turn around and they're all just squaring up to Shah, who's come down to fucking umpire and everything. And he's got like 8 lads like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You should have just let him have 6 players. It's like, you shouldn't have given us a worldie and wicketkeeper. And they're like, you never played like that for us. You never played like that for us.
Incredible. Yeah, there was a lot of love on Twitter yesterday for Matt basically calling everyone who's ever played for Australia cunts, which I loved, by the way.
Well, they are. I mean, come on,
Matt. I was with you in the 90s, mate. I suffered in the 90s, so it's the same with Man United for me. I can't forgive them. But who do you reckon would be the most village of all the Australian cricketers you've hated in the past? Who do you reckon would fit right in at village level?
Oh, Doug Waters. Doug Waters is absolutely. I mean, I love Doug Waters actually because he'd get off the pitch and he'd be playing cards, drinking and smoking straight away. I mean, I met some game. I don't know if you remember Gary Gilmore, the left armour who destroyed England in the 1975 World Cup. I met his son. I was chatting to him and he was saying, oh yeah, we're talking about West Indian quick bowlers. He said, oh, my dad played against them. And I said, well, who was your dad? He said, oh, Gary Gilmore. And then he told me a brilliant story about Gary Gilmore and Dougie Waters going out and getting pissed. And Doug Waters was 100 not out overnight and Gary Gilmore had about 30. And overnight, they stayed out till about 7 or 8 in the morning. And Doug Waters asked he went to bed at 8 o'clock and he asked for a call at 8:30. And he went out and he scored 250.
Fucking hell.
And Gilmore got a ton.
Wow.
Didn't Gary Gilmore? Wasn't there a serial killer called Gary Gilmore as well? There was a song about looking through Gary Gilmore's eyes, and on top of the pops, whoever the producer was, got the picture of the cricketer instead of the serial killer and stuck it up behind them.
That's just brilliant. Yeah, the advert song. I remember.
Who was it? Is it X-Ray Specs? That song?
Adverts. The adverts.
Adverts. Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember my mum had a punk compilation album when we were kids, and I remember that song being on it.
I got quite confused in 1977 or 78. I thought, fucking hell, they've gone and executed Gary. I know
Just being Australian.
I know he destroyed us in the World Cup semi-final, but he doesn't really deserve that much. Firing squad.
Is it on that note? Are we?
So we leave it there, don't we?
Yeah. Mainly because my computer can't hack half an hour episode.
Yeah, I'm actually on a working day. So I'm going to pop up at any point asking me some bollocks about promo or whatnot.
Should we trail our guests tomorrow? Should we tease that?
Nah. Just wait for it.
Surprise.
Just in case it all fucking falls apart.
It won't. But okay.